Hi, it's Monday, March 19th, 2018 at 1 o'clock Eastern Time, and this is Admissions Live. I'm your host, Nicole Lentine, and on today's live broadcast, we're talking about maintaining inbox zero. Admissions Live is part of the Higher Ed Live network. Our episodes offer you the direct access to the best and brightest minds in education. Be a part of our live broadcast by sharing your knowledge. Participate in today's discussion by tweeting us using the hashtag HigherEdLive. All of our episodes are free and easy to access in the video archives at higheredlive.com, or take Higher Ed Live with you on the go by subscribing to the podcast. Higher Ed Live is produced by M. Stoner, a digital-first agency committed to tailored solutions that drive real results. We know you've wondered what prospective teens are thinking when they receive and read or ignore your institution's recruitment marketing. In partnership with NRCCUA, the myth-busting enrollment marketing research uncovers the best marketing channels and communication preferences that have the biggest influence on prospective teens' perception of your institution. The white paper is available for on-demand download. Get your copy today and identify what encourages prospective teens to apply to your institution. We'll be tweeting out a link shortly. And without further ado, I'm excited to welcome my guest, Ashley Budd. Ashley is Director of Digital Marketing at Cornell University. And most longtime viewers of Higher Ed Live likely know who you are, but for those who maybe are new to the channel, do you mind telling us a little bit about yourself?
Hey, Nicole, thanks for having me on. It's always good to be on this side of the broadcast of Higher Ed Live. I've been in your shoes before. I was host of Admissions Live starting in 2012 before handing the reins over to you and moving on to do some other content for the network. Now I sit mostly in a producer role. And I was really excited that you had an opening for a guest this month so I could weasel my way in here and talk about email, which is a pain in the ass for everyone.
That is a true story. I was tweeting earlier that I'm selfishly pretty excited about talking about this topic because I am constantly on the search for the elusive inbox zero. So on top of asking you some questions about it and learning from your tips today, I'm hoping to really learn a lot for myself alongside our viewers. And yeah, excited to have you on. I remember back when you had me on as a first time guest. A ways back now, so pretty cool to have it turn the other way. So I'm excited for our conversation today.
Go way, way back.
Oh yeah. So you kind of approached me with these three broad tips of sort of how to approach your inbox zero mentality. So start me off here. Kind of when you open up your inbox and you're dealing with, oh my gosh, coming back from break or coming back from, and anything, or even just starting your Monday. Where do you start?
Yeah, well, it's Monday, so why don't we just start with like any old regular Monday? And, people don't take time off of email. It would be nice if they did. This is not France, where it's now illegal to make your employees communicate over email after work hours. Wouldn't that be nice?
It would be.
But yeah, I actually started, I started working from home in 2014, and in an effort to try to figure out how I was spending my time and make sure that I was balancing work and life appropriately in a home office, I started tracking all of the work that I was doing. And I used a really simple app on my desktop called Rescue Time that told me when I had different programs open. And a couple things really surprised me. One was that I was taking 15 minutes a week just typing my password into, to log on to my computer.
Oh my gosh.
That was crazy. Like the amount of wasted time just writing my password, which I haven't figured out how to get around until I got an Apple Watch. Now my Apple Watch unlocks my map for me, and I'm sure I have cut that down. But the other thing that was really shocking to me is that I was spending almost a full day out of the week in Outlook, and that was just terrible because the amount of productivity that I thought I was getting out of spending in Outlook was really small. I now realize that I probably was accomplishing things through email, but still thinking that like 1 out of your 5 days of work is getting spent in an email inbox, or maybe even more. I was actually averaging like 11 hours a week just in Outlook alone, and decided this is terrible. I don't want to be spending 11 hours a week in Outlook. So I started just to be more conscious of what I was doing with email, and with a couple tactics that I'll share, I was able to cut that by more than half, so that I was averaging more like 5 hours a week in email, which still seems like a lot, but if you spread that over your work week, that's an hour a day, and it's totally manageable. So I'll share some of what I do. And if you're listening to the podcast, it might be fun just to practice along and do this yourself with your own full email inbox. So the first thing I do when I open up my email is I take just a first full pass through from the very first email that's in my inbox all the way to the last. And if you're the kind of person that has like 10,000 unread emails in your inbox, this probably isn't something that you'll be able to accomplish in the morning. But if you're someone that even has like 100 or 50, take the time to do this at least once, and it will start changing your life. It'll start making things a lot easier. Typically, I have maybe like 20 emails total in my inbox. And the real goal is to get everything out of your inbox. Inbox 0 for me doesn't mean I've read everything. Inbox 0 means like there is nothing in my inbox and there's nothing to do in there. So when you take this first pass through, essentially what you're doing is putting a whole bunch of stuff in the trash, because you're going to have a ton of garbage in there. And don't think about anything else. I know I was in a real habit of keeping things that I needed to come back to marked unread. Like that was my flag. Like I still have this thing to do. I'm going to make it unread. You want to break that habit because if you have only 10 emails in your inbox, it's okay if you've read them already. Like they're so much more manageable. You don't have to use that as a flag or a kind of category. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to read all your emails, and most of them are going to go into the trash. Don't get distracted along the way. One rule of thumb might be if you have emails that are more than 3 weeks old, and if you're using a program like Outlook, it'll do this for you. It'll say, here's your emails from yesterday, here's your emails from last week, here are ones that are much older. Maybe leave those aside for special treatment, where you're going to do this when you have more time on your hand. You can kind of get to those later, but at least go through like the last 3 weeks and open everything up. And if it doesn't have an action item, if there's nothing else you need to do with it, just throw it in the trash. I think you'll find that you're sending a lot of newsletters and webinar announcements to the trash without even opening them. And that means it's time to unsubscribe. So pull the trigger on the thing that you meant to unsubscribe from a long time ago, and take this time while you're doing this trash pass through to unsubscribe to that. You'll know if you feel like you're missing that content, it's easy enough to go and resubscribe. But most of the time you're going to unsubscribe, and you're going to be happy that there's not 5 extra emails a week in your inbox coming from them. You're not looking at it anyway, so just get rid of it. And like I said, later, if you find yourself missing those updates, you can always put yourself back on the mailing list. But I find it really cathartic to go through, put things in the trash, and unsubscribe from stuff. Sometimes it seems easier just to like, okay, this is garbage, I'm just going to trash it. But taking that extra step at this pass through to unsubscribe from things makes you feel like you actually accomplished something. Like you're keeping those annoying people out of your inbox for the future.
I feel like you're preaching straight to me.
Yeah. I mean, these are definitely the habits that I had, and if you do like the massive clean out once, and you There's a blog post that I wrote a couple of years ago that you can kind of reference if you need to go through these tips to remind yourself how to do it again. You're going to find that it's really, really easy to do. So the first thing you've done is you kind of like gone through and you've gotten rid of a ton of stuff that was just sitting in your email. You're going to find that there are things that were already taken care of, like old email change where someone just said, okay, and like, why is this still sitting here? Like, get rid of all of that stuff. But then there's also going to be other kinds of email in there. And this is why email is so hard to organize, because you get the newsletter webinar stuff, but then you get like really important notes from your boss. You get things from campus that are announcements, that are events. Maybe I want to go to that. You get things that are from students or parents, or things that you absolutely have to follow up with, that they're like actually part of your to-do list. And all of these different kinds of communication put in one inbox is like, it's a disaster. So the way I try to think of them is to categorize them into just, there's three kinds of emails in my mind. There's one that needs my attention. There's one that needs to be filed for reference at some point. So it might be something that, like a policy that HR sends out, and I don't really want to trash it because I might want to search for that later. So that's something that might need to be filed away. And then there are the emails that should have never been emails in the first place. Those are my favorite. Yep. So there's either emails that need your attention that you're going to have to take care of. Those stay. Ones that are things that you're going to reference. And this is where you're going to use email folders. You're going to get it out of your inbox and into a folder that makes sense. All email clients are searchable, so don't worry about things getting buried in folders anymore. You can, if you're looking for something, your tool will make it easy to find later. Just get it out of your inbox, out of your way. And then it's these other ones that are a real pain, the emails that never should have been emails in the first place. So this is what you're looking at. This is what you're left with when you're doing the second pass through. And on the second pass, you're going to look at each item again and decide whether or not it's something that needs attention. If it's going to take you less than a minute to take care of, do it right now. And if it's something that is going to take you, some time to look something up to take care of, then you can flag that for attention. If you're using something like Outlook, you can put a little red flag on it. This is something I need to take care of. Otherwise, it is something that needs to be filed, or it's something that needs to be moved to a to-do list. And it really doesn't belong in your email. And this is where I take stuff out of email and put it into a project management tool like Basecamp. There's all sorts of tools that people use, but Basecamp is one of my favorites for teamwork. For my own personal stuff, I really like Wunderlist. So if I see something that is a bigger to-do item, it really doesn't need to sit there in my email. It can sit in a project management tool or to-do list where I can then get updates about it elsewhere. And it ends up just keeping your email tool a communication tool and your to-do list somewhere else, rather than having things scattered. Because what you'll find that happens in projects is you might be using Basecamp or another project management tool for a project. You might have sticky notes on your desk for the same project, and then you also have things that you're supposed to do for the same project in your email. And if they're scattered like that, that's when you lose stuff. Mm-hmm. And you're never going to get to inbox zero if you have to-dos sitting in there. So get them out. Anything like that doesn't need to be saved, that you like feel like you well, maybe it's something that my computer's trying to update on me right now. Hold on. Okay. Yeah, so most of your emails really don't need to be saved. There are a couple of things that do. So you're going to find like yourself saving some of these office memos and folders. Receipts for travel. Get those into a receipt folder for yourself, get them out of your inbox. There might be some correspondence with colleagues or students that can be saved, but try it as much as you can to get that out of your inbox, unless it's something that you absolutely need to respond to. So if it's, if you put it in a folder and it's somewhere that's easy to find, great. If you put it in a folder and you're never going to touch it again, that's fine too. If it makes you feel better, it's hidden, it's out of your inbox, it's out of your life. And then those to-do items, it'll be easier and easier to identify what's a to-do item and what is something that just needs your attention as you get better at this. But a lot of times, you're moving it into something like Basecamp, or you're just making a sticky note about it and deleting it and getting it out of your inbox. It makes a huge, huge difference. So that's kind of my step 2, is to go in and flag and file stuff. And now what you're looking at is hopefully a full inbox of a lot of red flags. Of things. Now, like, all that's left really is things that need your attention. And now you put time aside to actually take care of those, because if it was something that was quickly done, you already just did that. You've kind of got the basic mechanics down of how to keep things organized. But you might be one of those people that also has to go through and do a deep clean of like the much, much older emails. And you essentially just repeat the same steps, run through it, delete anything that you don't need anymore. If you do have items in there that are more than 3 weeks old, there might need some TLC. And so carve out some time on your calendar to do this. Say, like, this is going to be my email time. You can still kind of like make that initial pass and decide whether it's going to be a to-do item for you, or if it's something that you're going to follow up with later through email. And then after you've gone through and you've organized everything, then it's time to tackle your to-do list. And to-do lists are a lot more manageable than random email inboxes filled with all of those other kinds of communication. So that is the way I get through it. I would welcome you to poke holes in my my methodology.
It makes a lot of sense, and I want to start incorporating these into my work. I'm somewhere between step 1 and 2 right now, so I'll try to take it step by step and see how it works for myself, and hopefully the viewers will too. I also want to encourage folks, I'm going to ask some of my own questions, but if you have questions for Ashley, please tweet at us with the hashtag HigherEdLive, and one of the 2 of us will see them, and happy to answer them. But you started to kind of talk about one of my first questions that I had at the end there, which is, when do you kind of filter this into your day? I know you said find what works best for you, but do you tend to do it in the morning? Do you find a certain section of the day? How do you approach that sort of scheduling of email?
It actually ends up being the first thing I do in the morning, and it orients me for the day. The first 2 things I do in the morning is kind of do this initial pass through of email, and a lot of it is going to end up being what I have to do that day. So it becomes my day's to-do list. So it's that and checking my calendar for meetings. And I try to do that like the very first thing when I open my computer. I do this pass through, and I can say right now I'm sitting with 36 unread emails. I have not started my day yet. I'm starting my day with the podcast. 36 unread emails, and I probably have another 20 that are sitting in there from Friday, things that I didn't get to. So on a Monday, I'm looking about 50 to 60 emails that need to go through and get cleaned up. And I'm sure 30 of them are going to just get trashed as soon as I start looking. And others will be easily taken care of. And then the rest are things that I'm going to have to tackle throughout the day. So yeah, I make it my first go. Seems to set the tone for the rest of the day.
Yeah, I've found that I've taken that approach too, even if it's just like you said, to go in there and clean out stuff that doesn't need to be in there and go, okay, my inbox just dropped by half. This feels a lot more
the first thing I'm doing is deleting news and webinar announcements, and if they're not catching my attention with a title, it's out of there quickly. There's a fair amount of subscriptions that I hold on to that I can't quite unsubscribe from, but that's a lot of it, especially on a Monday morning. That's clogging up your inbox.
Absolutely. And do you close it? Like, once you kind of feel like this is the progress I've been able to make thus far, do you close your inbox and then move on to your other projects?
Yeah, it's really interesting. So one of the things that I've done, which has been helpful, is to get all of my email accounts under one desktop client or one client on my phone. So I took the steps to I have several Gmail accounts. I put those in Outlook along with my institutional account so that I am seeing everything in one place and I'm not splitting time between a web browser and a desktop client. That's really helpful. The other thing that I'll do is I will turn off the push notifications for email when I need to focus on something else. So when I'm recording a podcast, I have turned off my email push notifications because it's a huge distraction. I'm not going to stop talking to you because an email came in. So why would I let myself get distracted with something like that? So there are certain meetings where I really need to be paying attention, where I'm making sure I'm turning off those push notifications. I also don't allow emails to get pushed to my phone, which took me a while to get down with. But it's been really, really helpful as far as getting distracted with work while I'm doing other things. The email app is one that I open a lot anyway, just to see what's in there. But I changed the settings to only fetch email when I open the app instead of getting those dings all of the time. For me, it's better to address email when I'm going to focus on it and I'm going to make decisions about it and I'm going to decide whether I'm going to delete something or flag it or file it. And when you're getting pinged with those notifications all the time, you can quickly read something and then forget that you read it. And that causes me more stress. So I haven't turned off the push notifications on the desktop. Every once in a while I will, but I did go so far as to do that with my phone, and everything is still working fine. Like, there have not been any fires. The sky hasn't fallen. And yeah, I've kept it that way for probably a whole year now.
That's great. I admire that, and I want to get to that mentality. I haven't quite gotten there yet, but I admire that.
I understand it's scary, but yeah, give it a shot. Like, give it a shot for a week, and if it's a panic, I think what I find is that when I'm curious about email, I'm opening it up anyway, getting the push, and then I'm finding that there's like 6 new things there, rather than seeing it every time it comes in. There's also a little bit of a conversation to be had about like your response time with email, right? So you're setting what kind of an expectation you're setting to be checking that all the time. And if your job expectation is to be within minutes rather than hours responding, maybe the push notifications are going to be more helpful. But I found, and I know you're going to ask me about this, that if someone wants my attention in minutes rather than in hours, they're getting away from email and they're going to more of a chat communication that we have available. So my team's finding me in Slack, or they're texting me if I'm really not paying attention. We've used Skype for business in our office too. I know that's popular with some offices. So that's really helped change the email expectation and get a lot of these like conversation threads that happen with a whole bunch of team members out of the email inbox and into a place that's more productive where you can have conversations a lot quicker. You can use emojis and gestures to like something and, you know, give approval on something. And I think that's been a big game changer for email.
Yeah, you beat me too, asking that question. Yeah, I now that we have these spaces like Basecamp that you mentioned or Slack, you know, has it changed how are you more proactive in sort of pushing those conversations away from email?
Yeah, I mean, Slack has been it's been one platform that has had such a high adoption rate among staff that I can't recommend it enough to other teams. Even if you're just starting with a small team that you email a lot, try with that small group of people to put a Slack community together. We have people who still can't get the hang of email that have gotten the hang of Slack. Like the adoption rate is really high, and from like a really diverse range of staff members, people that work with desks right next to each other to people that are remote across the country. And so that Slack has been huge for us for, you know, those quick conversations that often would have had to take place in email, especially when you're thinking about an admissions team that's traveling a lot and people are all different places. It's got a great mobile app that serves, you know, the same kind of purpose that a long email thread might with, you know, it has its own personality. And I think it helps to be able to share, you know, your reactions to things with a simple emoji gesture. It's known for its GIF integration. And there are just some things about reading the tone of a conversation on Slack and trying to get that same tone expressed in email that it just doesn't translate the same.
Yeah, it doesn't have the same it doesn't have the same impact when you're trying to send a GIF in an email and it doesn't want to cooperate, and you kind of like, yeah, goes off the rails with a different conversation entirely. Yeah, I love that, and I've started to use Slack with our intern team, and I think we're still struggling with really navigating adopting not versus email, and I think that is, you're talking about the buy-in, which I'm so glad your team has. I think you need to get everybody on there initially and understanding it to get there. But it's so true. If you can have this communication channel that doesn't need to be another email. It's like the older, you know, use of memos. It doesn't need to be written down and shared out to all these people. It can be shared in a space that you can see it, you can react to it, you can move on from it. And my gosh, that would impact probably a solid quarter of my email that I seem to have day after day. That's awesome. And Basecamp has similar kind of features to it, right? If you're talking about project management and that sort of space.
Yeah. Basecamp, you know, at any of these tools, there's going to be things that it does and it doesn't do. And you're going to have gripes with any of them. But Basecamp it does have a chat feature. I haven't seen the same kind of adoption with, it's called a campfire, Basecamp campfires. Haven't seen the same adoption rate that I've seen in Slack. But for me and the projects that I manage, it has become a running joke because I say it so much that I'll say, if it isn't in Basecamp, it doesn't exist for the project. So if you sent me something in email that is critical to this project, it's a file that we need, it's, you know, it's a deliverable for the project, it's a decision that needs to be made. If you send that to me in email, if I'm feeling generous, I will go ahead and put it in Basecamp myself. Otherwise, the next time we meet, I'm going to say, okay, here are the things that need to be done. If it's not in Basecamp, it doesn't exist. Like, make sure it's in there. It's so helpful for one project to have all of the assets, all of the decisions that are made, all of the to-dos, all in one place, especially for things that you do on an annual cycle, because when that project is a wrap and it comes around that you have to do it the next year, now all you have to do is reboot those to-dos. All of the things, all the files that you had from the year before are sitting right there for you to refresh. Places where you stumbled, are sitting there, conversations that probably would have happened in email, and you're trying to fight through your email client to find, when did we talk about this and who said that, who sent it, did it come from this person? Like, much, much better put in a project management tool than try to make your email be a project management tool. It's just not.
You're like bringing up ghosts from my past as you're saying this, because I'm thinking of projects that have happened this year. That we have one counselor visit project we've done for the last 5 years, and it is quite literally a battle to dig through Gmail or to dig through Google Docs and trying to find what we're talking about and what was done in the past. So, yeah. So I'm getting inspired by your shared thoughts on this, and hopefully some other viewers are, and thinking about trying to find a better tool to pull some of this stuff.
Cool.
Oh my gosh, so far away from email.
Get it out of there.
Yes, exactly. Although, speaking of email and tools that can make it a little bit easier, I'm curious, since you do a lot in Outlook, I don't know as much about what's there, but I know for Gmail as an example, there's tools like Boomerang, and there's other apps in place that are kind of built in to help you with your email productivity. So have you used any of those, or do you know others that do? Do you have any thoughts on those?
I think I tend to stick to the really simple features that are in all of the email clients. So things like flagging, or like in Gmail, you could star something, just to make sure that I know, okay, this is something that actually really does need attention, and I need to do this first. It helps you just kind of prioritize what's left in there. I'll also use categories for things. That's become really helpful for me. And that's typically like a color coding tagging system in most email clients. And I will use categories based on projects and teams. So I've got a few big projects that I work on year round, and I'll make sure those are flagged in a category. And then I have a morning huddle with my team every morning. So if it's something that needs attention with my team, I'll flag it for a huddle. And then when I'm getting into that morning huddle meeting, I can just select the filter and see what's sitting in my email, the things that need attention, talk about it with the team, and usually get it addressed right then. Or if I'm working on a big project and I'm just going to spend, the next hour taking care of the emails that have to do with this event, then I can just filter and focus on those 4 emails that are sitting there, rather than having to figure out how to hop around and find which one goes where. So it tends to be like the really basic tools that are in there that I keep going back to. And I would encourage people to try something like Rescue Time, just for your own time tracking purposes, not to give to anyone else, but to give you a sense of how much time you spend on things. It's refreshing to be reminded how quickly it takes to get something done. And then other times, you can find that you're pouring hours into something that you really don't want to be. And it might be easy to self-correct that too. So apps like Rescue Time or Ticker is another one that our teams use. There's a lot of free tools out there that can help you time track, for even if you just do it for a week, to kind of get a sense of where you're spending your time while you're on the computer.
Fantastic. Well, thank you. I'm going to have to try that myself and see, because I can only imagine. I am guilty of that, keeping the inbox open, seeing it every time an email comes in. And I think trying to be more proactive of thinking about the use of my own time will hopefully help me, and hopefully the same for viewers and listeners as well. So I don't see any tweets coming in. Just want to remind folks, if you do have any questions, to ask in the next minute or two before I let Ashley go, but only because I have colleagues that I know are guilty of this, because I've seen their inbox number. What do you recommend for someone who is that, couple thousand in the inbox, who wants to be better, but has a ways to go? I mean, do you recommend just like taking half a day and dealing with it? How do you approach it?
I think if I was if I could be so bold as to say, like, if you have things that are sitting in there that are more than a year old, why not just take everything? How about we say, like, from 2017, because we're not that far into 2018. Anything from 2017, create a folder named 2017 and or create a folder named super old emails and take all of those and put them in there. And they're gone. They're out of your inbox. Start fresh from there. They're still going to be searchable if there was something important in there. If you do really have something important in there from 2017, even December, like, what are you doing? Why haven't you addressed that? But that would be one way to at least narrow down and get started with just a couple of months worth of email. Not, you're going to, if you're the person that has thousands of emails sitting in the inbox alone, you've got, you're going to have some attachment issuuld to work through. So maybe just moving it into a folder and not completely deleting everything. That would be my recommendation.
Okay, cool. I don't know. I don't want to make any assumptions on any of your listeners' inboxes, but we are in higher ed after all. And I always feel bad for the presenter who made the mistake of keeping their email inbox open when they're opening up a presentation on the screen, and people look at the number in their inbox and they cringe or they make noises. So I'm reaching out to those folks to say we can all do better collectively about how we approach this. And I think, doing sort of a wash, rinse, and repeat of your rules is a really good approach. So I appreciate you sharing your suggestions for a more productive inbox, Ashley. And you're an easy person to find on Twitter. So rather than emailing poor Ashley, just tweet at her and see if you can catch her if you get questions. Since we don't have any questions, we'll move on. But tweet at Ashley, tweet at I if you have any questions. So thank you again, Ashley, for coming on.
Anytime, Nicole. It's good to talk to you and see you.
Always nice to chat with you and to catch up with you. And thank you, Ashley. Thank you to our viewers and our listeners. And thank you, as always, to our program sponsors, M Stoner and NRCCUA. Have a great day, everybody.